Workout last night, and obviously the guys are off today, and so a lot of work and preparation and film study, and looking forward to a good week of preparation and get ready for Texas Tech.
Coach, speaking of Texas Tech, I mean, they have the most passes by far in the Big 12 with a young secondary. I mean, so far, how have you seen your secondary kind of improve and ready for a challenge like that?
They're getting a little better each week. I mean, we're a long ways away from being a finished product for sure, but I'm pleased with the progress that we're making defensively. We have young linebackers, just like a young secondary, and we played pretty well. We gave up a couple big plays last game. But overall, they're coming along. This will be a different challenge this week. This team is throwing it 60-ish times a game, and so it's a different look for our defense. Last week we played a group that was, more power running, misdirection passing, play action passing. These guys are going to play fast. They're going to spread out. They're going to throw it 60 times, try to get the ball out in the flat. So, your question is valid, and it's a little bit different approach this week.
How much of a weapon is your depth, especially on that defensive line, when you think like you may have to rush a passer 60 times a game?
Yeah, that's always going to be important. Good news is we really don't have anybody playing more than 42, 43 snaps a game, which is really good. We'd like to keep it that way. And if you get in a game where we could very well have 100 plays on both sides of the ball, from the standpoint of we play fast, they play fast. So that depth could be important.
How familiar are you with Joey McGuire?
Well, I bumped into him when he was a high school coach. Obviously, when we recruited players at his school, they always had 6 or 8 players at his school every year, and so I'd run into him down there. But other than that, haven't crossed paths with him any at all.
What's it like facing a guy that, you don't have a whole lot of reference in terms of that type of stuff because he hasn't been at the college level for a really long time?
Oh, not a lot. Offensively and defensively, we've got several games, and just like they have on us. So in most cases, coaches are going to prepare based on what they've seen and try to avoid chasing ghosts. Sometimes I get a feel for head coaches based on experience and what you're talking about. And like we've talked about the last couple of weeks, guys that want to roll the dice on 4th downs and guys that want to play field position, just a little bit different personality. Defensive head coaching thought compared to an offensive head coach thought. So don't know a lot about him yet. Seems to want to go for quite a few 4th downs. But other than that, not really a feel for much.
Go ahead.
Last time you were involved with high school football, you were in high school. He doesn't make the move to college until he's in his 40s. You spent all your professional career coaching college ball. Can you imagine the advantage and disadvantage of those paths?
I think there's some advantages to it. He's seen the other side. I think that they have advantages in recruiting based on they can communicate with high school coaches, and I think at times high school coaches can say, hey, you've been here, or I've been there, I know what you're going through. He was at Baylor for a couple years or so, however, I'm not sure how many years before he went to Tech. And I think there's some points in both ways there, but I know that in the end, football's football. The adjustments of managing a big operation and the other side of the recruiting will be different. I'm guessing in high school you deal with the principal, you deal with the school board, you deal with the superintendent, and I deal with the athletic director, the president, and the board of regents, so there's some similarities there. But he's done well. They did well at Baylor, and then obviously he's off to a good start at Tech.
Your decision early in your career to go the college coaching route. What did you learn in those early years that maybe set you up for when you did become a coordinator, head coach?
first off, takes a long time to really know what you're doing. I've said this many times. I look back at my career and wonder how I ever got far enough along. You think you understand football and you can coach it, and 5-6 years later you realize that you're just starting to learn it. I was fortunate enough that moved around, had several different head coaches and coordinators, and one of the things that I think I was smart enough to realize is what to grab from each one of those guys that I thought that was productive and could be good at some point in my career, and then leave some things that I thought weren't as productive, and you get good and bad from all of them. So that experience is beneficial. One disadvantage I have is I've been in one place a long time, so I don't see a lot of what goes on at other places because I've been here for so long. Sometimes I wish I would have or had experience in seeing how things take place in other places, but I guess you can't have both.
When you look at your third down defense, 3 years in a row, you guys have been really good. And a lot of the players are the same, but not all of them. Obviously, a coordinator change. What has been the key to the consistency there?
I think, Robert mentioned our depth on the defensive line. I think that helps. Our pass rush has been good, not great. It needs to improve. But when you keep guys fresh, you have a better chance of pressuring quarterbacks. The way that the game's played now, I think that's just as important as anything you can do. So if you can somehow be disruptive in a normal operation of a quarterback on plays, you got a better chance of being a good third down team.
All the questions we asked after the game Saturday about Spencer and the toughness of Richardson and the receivers making big plays, we probably should have circled around the goal line and how well they held up against that D-line that you touted rightfully a week ago.
How well that what?
Your offensive line held up.
They did. We were, Gary, we were good, not great, but we were certainly better than the championship game. And that's one thing I mentioned after the game that we talked about as an offensive staff after that game, that that was our fault. That was my fault, and that was the offensive staff's fault that we weren't better prepared for that. We had a plan, but we didn't give enough credit to how good they were up front, and so that was a mistake. And we said, let's try not to let that happen again, and we were better in this game against a good front. They're really difficult. In my opinion, they're difficult to handle in between the tackles. And so I was pleased with our improvement in that area.
What would it take for them to be great? Or do you even need them to be great?
Yeah, I mean, you would like to. Part of the issue we have is that's not who we are. We're not we don't get a lot of reps with what we call heavy formations, tight ends, wings, and the question I get from people and even at the house, why don't you do it? Why don't you put those people in and execute those plays? It takes time and takes practice. So good illustration is people talk all the time about when you're a shotgun team and you get in short yardage, why do you go in shotgun? You're already 5 yards back. To get 1 yard, you got to go 6. And that's true. But we don't practice taking snaps under the center. So there's a risk reward. Now, we worked hard in the spring, we worked hard in the summer, and we worked hard this year, and knock on wood, we've been good under the center. But there's been times that we've messed it up by jumping under the center in a crucial situation. So it's the same thing in a heavy personnel, like that's the world Baylor lives in. So for them, short yardage, goal line, the 4th and 1s and stuff, 4th and 2s, that's kind of the world they live in. I used to live in that world. Back when I was calling plays as a head coach, we had those type of tight ends and linemen. That was kind of carryover from Les Miles. So 1 or 2 yards didn't mean anything to me. I mean, that was just, we were good at it. So that's the difference. We don't live in that world, but what we've done is we've tried to allow enough time to get it to improve, that if we get in that situation, that sure, we'd much rather be under the center to get 1 yard than 6 yards deep.
You'll take good, considering they're still inexperienced at that.
Yeah, no, that's right, and that's what I said. I was going to clarify what you said. I'm pleased with what we did. We still, I mean, I'd love for it to get into a short yardage situation like this and that, and just go for it all the time. But I also don't want my pride to take over who we are on offense. And there's give and take. We can play fast. We can play catch up. We can move quick. So sometimes teams that aren't built like us can't do that. So there's give and take on both sides.
Analytics have grown rapidly in the NFL, especially for fourth down. How do you feel about analytics and you using analytics for fourth down situations?
Well, we talked about that last week, or I don't know, I don't remember, but so I don't want to bore everybody that's been here to hear it twice. I tried that one year, and we had the book. We paid for the service and got all the information, and had a guy on our staff that followed me around on game day, and he would tug on my shirt on a third down and say, if they stop us here, the book says to go for it. And this went on for a whole year. And at the end of the year, probably 75% of the time or more, I didn't want to do what the book said. My brain said, I don't want to do that. I get it, but momentum, weather, maturity, their D-line, my O-line, quarterback experience, for some reason, a large majority of the time, they were wanting me to do something I wasn't wanting to do it. So I stopped doing it. I haven't used that since then. I've just gone on my gut feeling based on those situations. Sometimes I've been right, sometimes I've been wrong.
Saturday after the game, you mentioned you went into the game with the approach of wanting to go for it on short yardage, fourth down, goal line to prove to your guys that they can do it. Is that something you're wanting to continue, or was that just because of the situation with Baylor and the Big 12 title game?
Yeah, within reason, but I just wanted our players to know that we could be better than what we were in Dallas in that situation, and I wanted them to know that it was our fault, not theirs. We didn't prepare them for that. We put it out there, and I think that to be fair to, I'm not blaming Dunn and the offensive staff. I'm pulling myself into this as much as anybody. To be fair, we didn't really expect it to be like that. That's not really. We haven't been in many games where it ends like that. So, but we learned. We learned to be prepared for that. I would like to continue with that because it's good if we can keep the ball and keep the drive alive. But we also have been very fortunate. We have a really good target punter who can play really good field position. And, that field position got us a safety in that game. That field position 2 other times put in a position that they have less than a 7% chance to score based on where they start. So, it's going on forever. I don't think anybody's reinventing the game. I just think it's a feel for, in my opinion, as a head coach, I have to make those decisions. And that's going to be based on how I feel about us versus them and who we are. Maturity, a lot of other things can factor in. Is the playing surface wet? Is the ball wet? Can a guy slip? Can a lineman that's blocking to get movement, can he slip? There's just a lot of things going on. I guess there's a long answer for, we would like to continue to do that, but we have to be able to prove to ourselves that we're capable of that in crucial situations. But I certainly wanted to do it in that game just to prove to our players that we could do it.
Speaking of Tom, what do you feel has been so successful for him this year? Has it just been him, or is it also better coverage by your guys getting downfield to be able to pin them down at the 1 or 2 yard line?
We were pretty good at it last year, and so all those guys are back that are running down there and covering, with the exception of Little Presley. He's kind of new, but he's built for that. And then Tom is a year older and more mature and has a better feel for it. And so we've just been fortunate that with his experience and the guys that we have covering, they've gotten good at it. And, it's interesting. I'm not saying anybody said it is, but it's not as easy as you think. Like, people think it's easy to just run down there and do that. But one, you've got to get a release off a guy that's trying to stop you from doing it. 2, you've got to know where you are on the field before you start looking up, because you can't look up too early or you lose proximity where you are. Can't look up too late or you lose proximity where you are. Then you have to locate the ball and make a decision. Do I catch it or let it bounce? And a couple days ago, we were about as good at it as I've seen. There's one time that I think it was 23 that could have grabbed the ball on about the 7. I think it landed on like the 11 or something, and he got out of the way, and then Little Presley backed up, and then took it on about the 1 or 2. And I think that's when we got the safety. Well, that's hard to do. And for him to have that, for 23 to have that experience just starting it, because he didn't do it last year. And then one just was playing at Bixby last year. So it was pretty good for those guys to have that maturity at that time.
Coach, kind of going back to Texas Tech in the defensive line, but they have another huge guy, Tyrese Wilson, 6'6", 275 off the edge. After dealing with Baylor's Ica, do you feel prepared for him?
We never get enough practice getting ready for those guys. They're doing a good job rushing the passer. I watched 2 games on them this morning, and I don't know if I was ready to see that. But they pressured Kansas State and Texas both. They made some plays on them. The Kansas State quarterback runs around and makes a bunch of plays and can avoid it. But they do a good job with pressure. So, we'll see a different defense this week like we did on offense. This is a blitzing. They're going to come after us. They're going to blitz. They're going to stunt. They're going to twist. They're going to drop. They're going to rush 3. They're going to rush 4. They're going to bring safeties. They're going to roll coverage. They're going to do a lot of different things to try to pressure us. And we have to get ready for lots of pressure and lots of blitzing. Versus last week, that's not what we saw at all. So you get 2 completely different concepts on both sides of the ball against these guys. And they have done a good job, in my opinion, of rushing the quarterback.
Were you surprised? I got through a quarter and a half last night of their defense, and I called Wyatt Thompson, K-State's play-by-play guy. I said, give me a precursor. How much different stuff did they do? And Wyatt goes, they do the kitchen sink. He said, he's been around this a long time like Dave has. He said, I don't think I've ever seen a defense do so many different things inside one ball game.
Well, his background is that way. He's done that for a while. He's been around a long time. He's a smart football coach, does a lot of things, and just different philosophies, right? Aranda wants to play this front, this way, this gap, this coverage, and this is what I'm going to do. And you're getting a variety of a lot of stuff from him, and he wants to blitz and pressure, and that's what he's going to do in this game. He's going to come after you, and he's going to do it from a lot of different ways. There's times guys get cut loose when you do that, but it's just a different philosophy, and he's going to certainly go the opposite of what we just saw on Saturday.
Talking about your back end of your defense, how have you been impressed with the communication back there?
Of our defense?
Yeah.
They're getting better every week. We're certainly not where we were last year with those guys. But defensive staff is doing a good job of putting them in a position to have success. Most of the time, in the last couple games, they've been much, much better of listening to each other and understanding the concepts. I messed them up on the 4th down call I told you after the game. And they didn't get it communicated because they didn't have enough time because of, I told them to change. But other than that, most of what we're trying to get accomplished has been pretty good. And this will be a challenge this week because you're getting a variety of things on offense. You're getting a fast pace. You're getting runs. You're getting read zones. You're getting quarterback runs. You're getting tunnel screens. You're getting fake tunnel screens. You're getting vertical threats. You're getting all different kind of things. So communication obviously is important.
Taylor, I know he plays a lot into that. When you saw his game tape yesterday, there was a lot of ups and some downs. What did you think about Jason in Waco?
Jason seems to be a guy that makes big plays. He made the big play there at the end. He somewhat baited the quarterback into throwing it there, and he was in a too deep and came across, made a great catch. The deep ball they hit for a touchdown, he needed to be on top of the deepest guy. He got caught a little bit baiting on that one. But he's made a lot of plays. A couple times he gets his eyes down tackling in space that he needs to improve on. But the one thing you get with him is he's capable of making a big play at any time. He just has that savvy and that ability, and if he gets his hands on the ball, he's usually going to make a play.
Have you had many players like that?
Yeah, we've had some. Malcolm was that way. Sean Lewis was that way. Justin Gilbert. We've had some players that just kind of end up being in the right place at the right time based on their football knowledge.
I went back and looked at both of the big returns, Jaden's and then Brennan's that started that series where you hit the long pass and got the ball in from the one. 3 guys came up in common. Kapinski, Quentin Stewart with early blocks in the return, and then Kenyon Williams downfield with kind of some jackknife action. Talk about have you ever, you had the big return against OU last year, but the execution on returns was pretty strong.
Yeah, they were on their guys. We had a couple things happen on that play where it worked in our benefit that wasn't designed the way it was designed. The kick location of the ball worked out good for us, and so because of the kick location of where the ball was in the middle, their looper looped this way, and they had another guy that was making up for him that went across this way, and essentially our guys saw it and kicked the other guys out, and it created a big seam. So we had a couple things work to our favor there, and then the one that Presley ran back to the 50 or whatever, we had guys locked on guys, but we had 2 guys that didn't. We still got a good return, and then there was another time we got out to about the 30 that we had it blocked better than that. We actually had it blocked better than any of them, and then one guy lost his guy, and that guy got in the hole and messed it up, or that would have been a clean return. Kick return is interesting in that if you can just somehow play one-on-one basketball and get between your man and the guy that's returning it, I don't play basketball, but I'm guessing they tell that if he's got the ball, my job's to stay between him and the goal. And in the kick returns that way, if you can just play basketball with him and stay between your guy and the returner, and you have good returners, then you have a chance. And we've been very fortunate we have good returners. And they're fast. When they get in the open field, they got to go. And that's the difference, right? So if your guy doesn't have great speed, like Nixon has great speed, if he doesn't have great speed, he gets in the open field, he gets caught. There's a difference in it being on the 20 versus a touchdown.
When you have 2 guys like that, like Brennan and Jaden, how do you pick which one goes out there? Because you're only sending one at a time. Right?
Yeah, I don't. Wozniak runs that show, so I don't know how he makes that decision.
Hey, Mike, in Tech, you guys are facing a team that had a mid-season firing last year of their head coach, one of several, and a couple of them have had some pretty decent success after doing that. 5 more schools this year have fired already head coaches. Is this just part of the landscape now? Is it recruiting with that early signing day, the transfer portal? What do you think's happening with it?
I'm guessing just what you said. Obviously, as athletic directors think that they can get a head start in recruiting, get a head start in the transfer portal. If there's big name guys out there that they have their eyes on, they feel like we can get started on them right now. There's tampering that, I should say there's kind of unwritten laws about not tampering, but the tampering's taken place. So, and I think they feel like that they want to get a head start. And it's interesting. I didn't find out till they let the guy go at Wisconsin until last night when I got home. Later on, they told me. And so I asked him, somebody look his record up. And one of my boys said he was like 67-26 or something. So maybe there's somebody out there they want to go get now. But I don't know. I guess everybody's got reasons for what they do. And, the interesting thing is some of them, the buyouts double. Or they get cut in half if it's just like 2 months later or 3 months later, and people don't care. They just roll with it.
Off of that, Mike, I read The Athletic and ESPN and different sources. Well, they immediately put up stories on who candidates are for these positions. And it probably isn't a surprise to you, your two coordinators are already linked to 2 or 3 of these things.
Really?
So, and last year, Aranda had to make it, he had to shift his staff because McGuire left in the middle of the season. That's the negative to all of this. It's not just these schools, it's a domino effect.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, we could talk about this for a long time, but we all know what it comes down to. It comes down to one thing, it comes down to money. Money's driving all this. There's a lot of money in this game, and it's turning slowly but surely. It's turning into the NFL. Free agency is a portal, right? So that must be Joey McGuire around here. My dogs, they know who he is. So the free agency is the portal. And, it is what it is. It's not going to change, but when there's just massive amount of money involved in anything we do, this is what can happen. And these guys, I don't know if who's interested in our assistance or whatever, but they should be. I mean, there's guys on this staff that are going to be head coaches, are going to be good head coaches, and I'm not trying to pump my own tires up, but they've been in a program that's had a lot of success, and they've seen it from start to finish, so why wouldn't they be good candidates?
Coach, this question's kind of off topic, but I noticed the Big 12 this week, and a lot of teams nationally are making a big push for college football mental health awareness week. What is the importance of making sure your guys are just mentally well off the field?
Well, it's all of us, right? I mean, we live in a society that's driven with fast, and we all have anxiety, and anxiety causes problems. And mental health's been an issue since we've walked the face of the earth, and it's just never been talked about. People discard it and act like it's going to go away, and it's not. I bet that there's probably 90% of the people in this room that have had somebody in their family at some point that has had some type of anxiety or mental health issues. And now the good news is people are discovering that it's a fact, and people can admit it and get help. And it's very, very important. And we've made huge strides here. We just hired another person 2 weeks ago.
For what?
Mental health.
For counseling for the team?
Hmm. And the coaches.
You guys have coached? You guys have
We have 3 people now that we're tied in with the medical school in Tulsa. And we started it a few years ago, and it's grown since Dr. Shrum has been involved, and with Chad, and we have people that are tied in, and we have more outlets now for players or coaches or anybody that needs some type of counseling than we ever had before. And they're in demand everywhere in the country, in my opinion. And I think it's a positive for us. Forget football. It's a positive for us, for all of us, to know that we have people that can help if you have some type of depression, anxiety, a lot of things going on daily.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You look back on your career and kind of wish that maybe that was a little more common, and
I mean, you're way too young, but when you look in the 80s, if somebody acted like they had anxiety or were depressed, people just said, okay, send them off to a padded room. The public frowned upon it. We knew it, but nobody wanted to admit it, and we didn't accept things. We're much better than that now. So we didn't know anything about it. Just like we didn't know anything about concussion protocol. I mean, I've talked about it at times. I know there's 3 or 4 times in my career that I got a concussion, because now I know what a concussion is by what they tell me. I know I had one. I didn't even come out of the game. I mean, we didn't know. We didn't know you're supposed to come out of a game. So all those things are pluses with science and technology and basically awareness.
Speaking of concussion protocol, we've seen that at the NFL level brought up with the Tua situation. How do you guys or the Big 12 handle those situations?
So they have a protocol that's, or procedures, I should say, that are in place. And then anytime we have this, and we've been fortunate that, we wear those things on our helmets in practice now that have been really, really good, because most of your just what I would call mild concussions would be in practice, because it's not the big hits, with the exception of, like the unfortunate situation with Tua the other day. when you get slammed in your head, the back of your head, or I guess anywhere on your head slams like that, that's different than like a direct hit. And it's the continued hits is what they tell us that causes this. And so ours have gone way down by us wearing the Guardian caps. And then anytime we think, I shouldn't say we, our medical staff, they're very well trained now in trying to identify that. And they'll come to us and tell us, and then they're shut down till they have to go through procedure to get back. And I mean, very seldom do we ever get a young man back, even if he didn't have a concussion, but he got dinged in less than 3 to 4 days.
Your brother had one of the worst I ever saw.
Yeah, he did. It was awful. Yeah.
How important is Matt Embro to your team?
How important is Hembro to us? Hembro's, and I've said this several times, you don't ever talk about holders or snappers until they mess it up. Everybody just thinks it's going to happen. And when something doesn't happen that's favorable, then we start talking about him. But he should play in the pros for a long time.
Is there an area of your special teams that you feel isn't quite up to the level as the others, like the punting or long snapping or anything like that?
I'm comfortable with our special teams. Now we have quite a few young guys that are out there, but they're showing maturity beyond their years so far. And I was concerned about it when I went to Baylor. I told you guys that. We kicked off at Baylor in the end of the third or fourth quarter. I don't know what it was, and I counted, and we had 8 guys on the field that were running down that had never played college football last year. And those things concerned me, but they're playing a little better than they should based on their experience. And our coaches, the 4 guys that coach those units, are doing a great job with them, and we're getting good effort. And so I'm comfortable, and I said this a month ago, with our special teams, and so far they've played well.
Have you added more time during practice, like over the years of how much time?
Well, I did. I started 4 or 5 years ago. We added, but I haven't changed in the last 4 or 5 years.
Braylon Presley and Stephon Johnson both played. Is that a sign that those guys aren't going to redshirt?
Yeah, they're going to play.
And then you likened Kendall Daniels to Wild Thing a couple weeks back. How is he progressing? Are things becoming more clear to him?
Who's that?
Kendall Daniels.
He's getting a little bit every game. Yeah, it's we just talked about that a second ago, and he falls in that same category. Like at this time next year, I'll probably be able to say he's really reliable, and he's somewhat reliable now. But he's going to make mistakes. That's just the way it is. But he's learning. He's getting a little bit better.
Coach, I know this week you guys are inducting Bob Fenimore in the Ring of Honor. I know he played a long time ago, but from what stories you've heard, from all the stories you've heard, how good was he really?
Well, the guy played how many sports? He played 2 here, right? Yeah, and was multiple position. And they went to, during, I think it was 44 and 45. Was that the 2 years he played, and they went to the 2 big bowls? 55, 56? I was only a decade off. Hell, I think back then. And I've looked at that, at the bowl games down there in our hallway, and I've looked at it a million times. 45, 55, one of them. All I know is the guy did just about everything. And obviously was first-round pick, right?
First overall.
Yeah, first player, first round. So he's way, way, way back for me. But I know that when you hear people talk about him, they talk about, he's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime guy athletically, and then they talk about how awesome a person he was. They said he was just humble, great guy, great family, the whole thing.
His passing and rushing yards.
Huh?
His passing and rushing yards total, that record stood here until you came along.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. And when I was that is amazing. And when I was sitting at home Saturday night, about 10:48 p.m., and I was just finishing up my second Diet Coke. They put the stat on the bottom of the screen where something about me and Spencer Sanders in touchdown passes. Did y'all see that?
I think they got it wrong.
I mean, I thought, I mean, somebody got it wrong, right?
It was the career wins that he tied you at, and they moved his touchdown passes.
Yeah. And I thought, man, those Diet Cokes, they're damn Diet Cokes. But I saw that, and I was trying to do the math in my head, and then I thought, well, I don't know. I just got to go back and watch Caleb Williams make another play.
He had 11 picks in one season. Back then, there weren't that many opportunities to get
No doubt, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's you know, I'm really, I take a lot of pride in this Ring of Honor that they've put together. I'm very appreciative that they're doing that. There's a lot of players. If you go back, most of y'all are too young, but if you get some of the older people to go back and talk about the players, we can fill this stadium up real quick on guys that Oklahoma State's had a lot of great players. So they can fill this place up pretty quick.
What's the status on Jen Bray this week?
Bray?
Yeah.
He practiced last week. He's out there rolling.
He's going to play this week?
Could. You know, he's, I guess the correct term is day to day. He wasn't really conditioned like we wanted him to last week because he hadn't done anything in 6 weeks. I mean, he's been out there conditioning, but not football condition. So, but he's practicing.
Spencer is kind of approaching that win mark for Oklahoma State. He's getting really high on the quarterback win talent. Could he be a little underappreciated in when we look back?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that forever too. I think he is underappreciated for what he's done, and the reason why is because he's gone through different times in his career. One time we were out of offensive linemen, no fun for a quarterback. Last year we didn't have any receivers left. He's out there playing with freshmen, and he just keeps playing, and he just keeps finding a way to win games, and he has a competitive nature, and now he's developed a calmness and a humbleness about him that he's hard to replace. It'd be hard to replace.
You went there by 11 and you drank a Diet Coke to celebrate?
I was, well, I didn't want to promote. I didn't want to promote any ill will, but I was sitting in my chair at home, and I had a little bit of Diet Coke. So you take. I'll give you a good story. You'll like this. So I was talking one time to a guy that he had to go to a doctor. He was an older gentleman. He went to a doctor and to get his wellness check. And the doctor said, do you drink? Do you this? Do you smoke? Or whatever. And he said, yeah, I drink. And the guy says, well, 1 drink a day, 2 drinks, once a week, whatever. And he said, I'll drink a glass of wine in the evenings. And the good doctor said, okay, that's not bad. But what he failed to tell him, it was a 32-ounce styrofoam cup that he was drinking in the evenings. And it was, not to knock anything, but it was the $7.88 a bottle white wine that's, I'm guessing there's a lot of sugar and stuff in it. Probably not the best thing. So anyway, for me, I take like a normal size glass. It would be like, this is 16 ounces. Yeah, because I mix my energy stuff with it. So I'm going to say those glasses I take at home are 12 ounces. And then I fill it with ice. And this is really kind of the Joe DeForest plan. You fill it with ice, and then you put your Diet Coke in it. And then you fill the rest with whatever you want. And that's what I do, and this just happens to be a Diet Coke. Now, that's if we win. If we lose, I just go to bed. I don't fill it with anything else if we lose, because then it's no fun. So, but I learned that from Joe DeForest. He's the one that taught me that, so it's his fault. Anything else?
Is Tyler banged up at all? I think I saw him
Tyler
on
Lacey,
the cart for a little
he's
bit.
doing fine. You know what was interesting? See, you're pretty sharp. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know which one y'all are, but you're pretty sharp. Yeah, Jenny, we don't either, yeah. You know, I've had, how many sets of twins on my team? And I don't know the difference in any of them still to this day. The only reason I know the twins is because one of them has a cast on his wrist. Otherwise, I don't know the difference in either one of them. They're both the same meter. But anyway, his feet he said it was like the bottom of his feet were on fire. And I don't, something had to do with like the turf or.
Yeah, that's what we reported on the radio network. They took his tape down. They took everything off.
I know, and they took him to X-ray because I think it had them stunned a little bit on what this was. And you know, I barely made a C in biology, so I'm sure it has something to do with the nerves, the nerve endings on the bottom of his feet. Something happened, you know, like you can get you hit your funny bone, and it burns and it tingles, and you're like, eesh, you know. Well, I think that he must have done something in this joint area in his ankle, and it sent sensations through his nerves, and it was tingling, and it was burning. And I mean, he said he felt like his feet were on fire. So I said, well, I need you guys to get an extinguisher and put his feet out, and I need his ass back on the field. What's that? It was hot.
It was very hot.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was hot. But I mean, that's unusual though. So anyway, all right, we've had Diet Coke lessons, fire extinguisher lessons, nerve lessons, and that's exactly right. All right, guys, thanks.